help prevent HIV.
Having risky sex? Come closer. Come closer. Let's get some information on PrEP. PrEP today. PrEP starts with these. Call and schedule your HIV test today.
I'm at Nationz, about to start PrEP. Taking control of my life so that HIV doesn't control me. Get PrEP.
Black trans lives matter, and we must do everything we can to protect ourselves. Can I get a snap for PrEP?
Unsure? No problem. If you are insured and are interested or have questions, please contact us or Kayla Finn, your PrEP coordinator, at 804-467-0480.
Get prepped AF today.
We want you to remember to get prepped AF today. To schedule an appointment, call 804-716-7597. Always aim to inspire. Let's get that prep.
Good evening, good afternoon, family. My name is Jason Watler. I am with the Virginia Department of Health. I am the Mind, Body, and Soul Coordinator, and I'm so happy for everyone to be joining us tonight on our third installment of the Mind, Body, and Soul series called Sisters, Not Sisters. And before we begin, I would like to go into the history of Mind, Body, and Soul. Mind, Body, and Soul started off as a webinar, an annual conference that took place within the 757. The VDH, started it to get gay men and trans women together for an awesome, educating, inclusive weekend of talking about sex, talking about our lives, what events about basically the mind, body, and soul, and the totality of queer and trans folks. And since the pandemic has started, I've turned it into a webinar series. This is the third installment of the series. Excuse me. And now we have partnered with Nationz Foundation for this third installment, and I can't wait to get into it. So now I want to bring it over to Zakia McKenzie.
Hey, Jason, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. I want to thank you for affording Nationz to have the opportunity to partner on this endeavor with Mind, Body, and Soul to create this installment of Sisters, Not Sisters. So Nationz Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We've been in existence now going on 6 years. We are the first trans-led organization in Central Virginia to be founded and provide free HIV and STI services that is geared to folks who identify under the LGBTQ spectrum. And we offer an array of services. So please visit our website, www.nationzfoundationrva.org. To get more information about the services that we provide, and you can schedule testing and all of that great stuff. So I know everybody is waiting to hear from these amazing panelists that we have. So Jason, if you want to introduce them, I will bring them onto the set.
All right. So first, we have to introduce Kayla. Kayla works for Nationz Foundation. I'm gonna let Kayla introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kayla Finn. I am the PrEP coordinator at the Nationz Foundation. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am so excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity, Jason, and I'm ready to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kayla. Next person I wanted to bring up is Monique Johnson.
Hi, I'm like Jason said, I'm Monique Johnson. I am a baker, official baker. Me and my mom, we own a bakery called Gary K Sweets, located in Louisiana, and I'm also a social media manager for a art to table feminist brand called Marmalade in Los Angeles. So, and my pronouns are she, her. I am so excited to be a part of this and just honestly learn more from like my cis standpoint. So thank you, Jason, for asking me.
Anytime, anytime. Also, my pronouns are he, they, just to keep that in mind. The next person I want to bring out is Madeline. Madeline, you're muted.
Okay, now I'm not. Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Madeline Morrison. I'm the director of the Bryson Institute of the Addict Youth Center. It's been around about 26 years. I used to be a youth there. My pronouns again are she, her, and hers. And I'm just so excited to finally be a part of this conversation, and it's live. So I promise I won't drop any F-bombs, but I'm happy to be among some some beautiful, brilliant minds, and I hope we can learn from each other this evening. So thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, and last but not least, Shavonda.
Hello. Good afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. My name is Shavonda Sisson, and I am the Director of Ally and Alumni Engagement for Public Allies Milwaukee. I'm also the founder of Love on Black Women, which is a people-driven fund here in Milwaukee that makes sure that we can help to improve the physical conditions of Black women and Black magics within Milwaukee. And I am super excited to be here to share and to learn.
Awesome. So thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited about the conversation. So I guess let's just jump right in and start with our first question. So when we think about sisterhood, how do you define sisterhood? Don't, don't worry about jumping in now.
Oh, well, for me, true sisterhood is um, when someone there for you when you're down, when you're happy, through the good, through the bad, the ugly, um, knows probably your deepest secrets because she is a sister. And that's what sisters do. We hold each other's secrets near and dear. We support each other. We love each other regardless. If we don't agree with your views or what you're doing in your life, I'm going to love you regardless because you are my sister. So it's a lot for me when I consider someone to be my sister, or regardless if you're not my sister in a relationship, you may be my sister in trans, as a trans individual, you're all my sisters. And that's kind of how I feel a sister is and what it is to me.
When you first asked that question, I hesitated because when I think of sisterhood, I think of that feeling, right? Of just like being with your people, knowing that you're safe, knowing that you're looked after, knowing that somebody might even check you, like and check you hard. But it's all love. And so it was really hard for me to define that, but I know what it feels like. And I know that when you're with your sisters, things can go either way, right? You can get a sermon, you can get somebody to help you figure your wig out. You can get, there's no limits to what happens within the bounds of sisterhood. So it was really hard for me to describe it, but I know what it feels like and I know when I'm in it.
It feels like spiritual alignment to me. That's what sisterhood like is. It's that you can't explain it. It's just this spiritual alignment, this like safety, but you feel it on like this whole like different level. So, sisterhood isn't always, given to you like, by birth or blood. Like it's this connection that you can't call it. You can call it so many things, but there's no like one thing, you feel me? Like it's a spiritual alignment that you have among people who share everything in your spirit. And listen, I've been through some things with some so-called sisters to know that that is hard to come by.
Mhm.
It is hard to come by, and it is so easy for us to be able to, fall into these bonds and, but
Mhm.
sisterhood, like at its truest core, you know it when it's there, you feel it. So it's this alignment that you have. That's just me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, sisterhood for me is just the feeling like it's a safe space where I can always be all parts of my identity. Like I don't have to pick and choose what parts are, that feel safe with my sisters, the people that I call my sisters. Like I can just be, I can exist, and I can be my full self without having to hide like certain parts of myself, which is so hard
Mhm.
to find. So when I find somebody that's a sister, I'm like, damn. Oh wait, what's with her? But I'm like, dang, like that. That's rare. It's a rare thing to find. But when you do find it, it's so special and it's just safe. So yeah.
So, when we think about sisterhood and the spiritual connection and having that support and um, people that you kind of share like minds with, and when we think about trans individuals and then we think about cisgender women, do we think what is your thoughts on the two, and are they looked at as a sisterhood across, or is there some type of separation in the minds of cisgender women versus trans women as far as sisterhood?
That can go both ways for me, and I'm going to speak from my experience. I can consider a cisgender woman to be my sister all day because I have biological sisters. What makes you not a sister to me is when you're not being a sister and you're sharing information that isn't to be shared with everyone, and you're sharing it on my behalf without my permission. So for you to say sis or sister, that's not how sisters do. Because even my biological sisters don't do that. They respect me for who and what I am, and we have boundaries. If someone is introduced to the family, like by relationship, I'm introduced as Kayla, not who you grew up in the home with. And my sisters know that and they respect that about me. And I love that because someone just coming into our lives don't need to know our deepest roots or our history. Just like if I'm hanging with cisgender women that I feel are my friends and would hold my safety at heart, for us to go out and be in a setting and for you to volunteer my information to
Mm.
people around me that don't know me or know that about me and don't see that physically, that's just wrong on so many levels because I feel like you're potentially putting me in harm's way. That can open a bad can of worms. You don't know if I know any of the people in this room prior to us coming to this setting together and what they see me as or know me as. So just that is what breaks the sisterhood to me and for me. Because I can't trust you. You're not to be trusted. And I just feel like you put me at harm because everyone is not as accepting as you. And I just don't feel it's not nice to share information that that sisters should only hold close to heart. Um, so that's when I don't consider you anymore as a sister. You're still a sister, but you're not my sister
Mm,
because sisters don't do those things to each other.
mm. Madeline, any thoughts? Anybody else thoughts?
Y'all just be putting me on the spot. I'm just playing. So y'all just be putting me on the spot. I'm just playing. But no, so outing trans people is a no-no, period. I just want since we live, right? So let me say that. Outing trans people is a no-no, period. There is like this cardinal rule number one. No outing trans people. Like there's always like a nuanced conversation around like people feeling like, oh, like I'm honest, so they feel like they can tell people on my behalf. No, I'm honest. I'm honest. So I hold the permission and power to share that information as I navigate through the world. And that's just something that people need to know, period. This is beyond like relationships of sisterhood, because of course that's not supposed to go down. But no outing trans people, period. Oh, and they come up with all kinds of excuses. Well, how do you know? And what if y'all building a life together? Then we just do. Then we just do. And I think there needs to be a deeper conversation, whether we do it here or in the future, about why people are so compelled to want to out trans people. And like, what is this obsession with you saying, I have the power to reveal something about this person? Most times they know it's dangerous. So then we got to ask that question about, so why are you willing to put this person in danger? Is them being trans, you knowing that, is that like an affront? Right. Like, I'm the only person that needs to be telling my business. Like, is my transness, like, is that an affront to you? So you feel like you need to tell the townspeople? Like, is that what's going on? Like, because I'm not a parody. So, like, period, no out and trans people. But where it messes up is, oh, this is so complicated. So there's this issue about men. We're gonna say it. There's this issue about men. There's particularly this issue about cis men. And when you are in sisterhoods with cis women and trans women, and sometimes the men, sometimes we're both holding the Ace of Spades. Sometimes it's your card and my card. And sometimes there is this misunderstanding around, oh, well, does that mean he's... No. Or, well, wait, because, well, then what y'all be doing together? It's none of your business. I'll be asking you what you be doing with him. None of your business. Like, there is this inability to just be women together,
Right. And it's almost like a level of competition. And so let's really cut out some of the competition by divulging this information, which is not
right. And once you realize that you're the prize, and it's no surprise. And I'm not trying to get on like a Miss Sandra's tip, but I always try to tell, especially trans women, like, never forget you are the prize, and it's no surprise. Like, don't ever let, especially like these situations about like, oh, it's now we got to compete. Well, what does she have that I don't have? And then it's easier to cut you down when they know your tea. But that puts us in danger. So that's another question. Like, you willing to get me murked out here over some dick? Really?
Yeah. that you don't even want. Because a lot of times this somebody don't even want. It could be, oh, it's my cousin, or that's my brother, or family.
It's also there's this inability to see the humanity and the variety in womanhood between cis women and trans women. That's where the disconnect is, and that's the onion we gotta peel. Because at the end of the day, like, if it was really how simple people made it about sex and gender, that often when you see it online, they don't even know what the fuck they be talking about in the first place, because they don't know the difference. If it's really all down to what's in our pants, then you got to ask yourself, like, all right, well, are we really doing everything we're supposed to do then? Like, if this is what makes me, and this is what makes me be able to navigate in the world, well, child, is doing a bum job. So I'm glad I'm living the way I'm living now. Like, people don't want to separate what you were born as from how you're living. And that it dwarfs the time that you were living as what you were so-called born as. It dwarfs that time. There's this disconnect between seeing the womanhood in both trans women and cis women. So, and then that opens up this whole other can of stuff.
It does.
So, Shavonda, Monique, any thoughts on that?
I have all the thoughts. So when you first asked that question, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell all the cis women business right now, because cis women don't, and I'm not quantifying anything. Cis women have a very hard time with understanding what sisterhood is, because they haven't even figured it out amongst ourselves, right? So when you talk about competition, we are competing with other cis women, right? Because we are raised to compete for these men Don't nobody want these men,
Damn about
right? I'm saying for a whole husband, a whole cisgender husband. Don't nobody want these men. So you are here competing and want to separate yourself from your sisters who are trans women for the sake of saying what you get period cramps and you not having no orgasms. Because if you're a cis woman having sex with a cis man, you're probably not having regular orgasms, right? And so
Somebody called
that's
the
just what we
ambulance.
are. That's what we're fighting for. That's what we're arguing about. And so when I know who are my sisters, I think about who are the folks that I am fighting to survive the patriarchy with. And that includes cis women, trans women, and other gender nonconforming folks, right? And so there is no separation for me in there when I think about my sisters. I know who my sisters are. Who do I feel as Madeline said, that spiritual alignment? Who am I in a spiritual alignment with? Who am I having these same lived experiences of? I'm having those same lived experiences with women, and there's no difference for me in that between cis women and trans women. And I also know there's like I think it's like a gold star level of sisterhood that trans women have because there's spaces I can't enter into because they have experiences that I have not had. But doesn't mean they're not my sisters. It's almost like I think about, you know, how you're growing up and it's a grown people conversation. I can't go into the other grown people conversation because I don't know yet. And I'm still learning. And I even think about my understanding of womanhood and what it was before I started being in true sisterhood with trans women. Like what I thought made a good woman, I was trying to be a servant to men because I never had to examine what womanhood was because I just took for granted that I understood what gender was or what gender expression was about. And I didn't know what I was doing. And most of these women don't know what they do. They talk about I'm a woman. What that mean? They don't know because we've never had to really examine it until they call themselves examining it once they want to compare themselves to trans women. And y'all still got it wrong because the things y'all are talking about are trying to hold on to it's not even exclusive to cis women. So it is I know who my sisters are, but if I have to say that cis women know who their sisters are, they do not. And they're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to each other, and they are definitely a danger to trans women. Um, which is why I be ready to fight. I mean like physically fight because if I tell somebody this is a place of safety, that's what I mean. And that means we gotta throw down, we gotta throw down. But when you ask that question, I got warm. Like, okay, so I tell all the business. Well, I got to because I don't know. I don't know what else to do.
Thank
and
you
not
for that,
only
Rhonda.
no, and like Chavonda was saying, not only do like cis women not know what womanhood is, but they take. I find that a lot of cis women that like I used to even like be friends with, like they took that definition of womanhood, whatever like the patriarchy was giving, and I'm just like, you don't even know what it means to be a woman. You're just taking the definition that was given by these men of what a woman is, and you're trying to, flex that. And it's just like, one, like I couldn't even, it's hard to even explain cis privilege to cis women when they don't even know what's like, they don't even know they have cis privilege. So it's like, where, like, I feel like there's so many levels that we have to like, we gotta get it together. We just gotta get it together.
So we brought up some words that were key points for me in the conversation, and when we talked about sisterhood and womanhood and femininity, and so what is femininity to you? What is womanhood to you?
Freedom, but like in this really specific way. Like it's I have tapped into power in me like these last, I want to say 20 years of my life that I did not know I was working with when I was 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, wondering what I was going to grow up and look like. 'Cause I knew for sure I wasn't going to be a man. So, so I had to figure that out. But when I tell you, like transitioning, if you let it, it gives you this whole other journey, this whole other rite of passage to womanhood and understanding who you are, like growing up as a woman, because your whole spirit does a restart. So womanhood to me, it feels like freedom, but it's this path that you get to this certain point of freedom. And then when you get there, you just feel like you can do anything. And I feel like that's what's happening in my part, this part of my journey in womanhood right now. I'm realizing that I really held myself back a lot trying to fit into patriarchy's definition of womanhood. When I finally set myself free from that, I feel like I reached that goal of womanhood, being able to claim who you are, the feminine and the masculine, the the above and the below of it, to be able to grab hold of that and tap into that power. It's freedom,
Powerful.
at least for me.
I agree. It is freedom. It took me a long time to figure out me, because what I thought a woman was for so long and watching other women, I was wrong about me. And a lot of things that you can do or can be done because of physical.
You muted, Kayla. We can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I had to learn that certain things don't make you a woman. It's not what's between your legs, it's what's between your ears. And as long as I've had the mind to get what I want from a man, I've never even been denied by a man. I probably count on my hand how many times I've been turned down by a man because of me being trans. Some women have helped me by telling, you know. Some have hurt me or could have potentially harmed me, and I have been put in harm's way because, a guy had heard something and then he's acting like he wants to go on a date with me, but he wants to really harm me. And I thank God I had a warning to get me out of the situation. So it's not about, what you were born. It's your thought process. It's what kind of woman you want to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it took me a long time to realize that. A long time. And I'm 42 years old, and it took me well into my late 30s to realize a lot about me and what I deserve and what I shouldn't put up with and what I don't have to put up with, and I'm still learning me.
So Sybil Onside said that I'd really like to hear Monique's and Shavonda's answer to this question, what is womanhood, as well. This is a great question. So thank you, Sybil, for tuning in and watching us.
Yeah, this is a great question. Because it's something that cis women are never asked, right? It's just this assumption that we know. And I would say also for me, as I've gotten older, my understanding of what womanhood is and what it is not. Because growing up, I was taught that womanhood kept a clean house, kept yourself together, everything to get somebody's son, right? To be within relationship with you. Um, as I have gotten older, my understanding of womanhood is like this. There's this extra genius that comes, and sometimes we don't talk about the gift of certain marginalized identities and like the gift of being able to see the world from all these different perspectives. So I have to understand the world from the perspective of being Black. I have to understand the world from the perspective of being a woman, and so that gives me like some extra razzle dazzle, like when approaching anything, gives me that extra genius. And so for me, it's that extra ability to interpret situations, that extra intuition, and sometimes that extra intuition comes from having to keep yourself safe as you navigate through the world. But it is those gifts. And we also asked the question of what is femininity. It would be easy, I think, for me to say, hair and makeup and all these things. I don't know the answer to that. I honestly don't. Like that is something that as I continue to grow, I continue to explore. I think about I think I would say that femininity for me is when I feel the most cared for, whether it's caring for myself, or the most beautiful, whether I've taken the time to adorn myself, um, or spend time to make sure I'm well moisturized before I leave the house or just even be in the house. Take that time to pick out, during the pandemic, my loungewear game is on tops. I mean, I got the velvets and the silks and all the things, and I feel beautiful and relaxed, and that's when I feel the most feminine. I think. Um, but I think my answer to what is womanhood continues to evolve as I continue to learn.
Yeah.
Monique.
Um, yeah. So for me, womanhood, or what I thought it was validation. Growing up, I always thought I needed some sort of validation to, be this either a wife or be some sort of professional woman, or whatever. That was my, and honestly, I'm just to the point now in my life where I'm realizing that my life is not centered on male validation. So for me, womanhood right now, the definition has kind of changed, and it's just a feeling of power. And I'm 28 years old, and I'm just realizing that. And as far as being feminine, I feel the most feminine whenever I'm like soft. And I find that that has been stripped of Black women, to just be soft and to not have to be strong all the time. So I feel the most powerful. I feel the most beautiful, and I'm even choking up right now because I'm like, wow, I'm just realizing this in my late 20s, but um, just feeling soft. Like even right now, I feel so beautiful just being able to be vulnerable in this conversation and learn. So yeah, that's what that's what femininity is to me.
So, to me, I think womanhood is part of tapping into strength and resilience. It is very much like Kayla said, what is between your ears. It is your mind and not your genitalia. And also, I don't think ovaries, although biologically it makes you a cisgender woman, but I don't think that you need ovaries to be a woman. I think being a woman is being nurturing, being loving, being inspiring, being beautiful. Um, may not be particularly birthing a child, but raising and instilling in youth. That is womanhood. And when I simply think about femininity, it's really a state of mind. Because when each one of you said what femininity was to you, you all started with how you feel. So it's a state of mind because all of our feelings come from our minds. So I think that it's times that even men feel a little feminine and do things that are feminine when they are taking care of themselves and getting their feet done or getting their hair cut done. It's things that they do to make themselves be more attractive. It may not be beautiful, but it is tapping into femininity and self care. So I really do think that it's a state of mind, and that's amazing conversation, ladies. Look, the viewers is loving it. And Joseph Reeves said that I somewhat relate because as I am delving into my femininity, I feel myself unearthing a jewel mine and a pot of honey simultaneously that got me feeling so juicy. I know that's right, Joseph.
I like how that sounds. Like I like that. Like, I want to feel like that. I like that.
Yes, 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 yes. Um, so activism. How do you utilize your activism? Tell us about that. And any projects you're advocating for or working on.
All right, I could
I,
talk about work a little bit.
okay.
But go ahead, Kayla. You was gonna go.
So
Yeah.
for me, my current activism is trans youth. Um, and the reason I'm targeting trans youth because when I was young and I wasn't afforded certain things in my transition, that has now put me in a state of where I have to have some surgical removal and things like that. So my activism is to the young trans youth, take your time in doing this so you do it right and you don't have to encounter things later in life, like with your health, that can potentially harm you or make you lose your life. Because so many young trans women or individuals I know that have did like the black market silicone that have either lost their lives or they're not either themselves anymore because they are either in a vegetable state, they can't walk, different elements. So my activism is my trans youth where, they're happy to be transitioning and they're like full speed ahead. And I just feel like I'm here to just like not stop them or halt them, but make sure they make the right decision health wise, like what's going to be healthy for you and what's going to make you happy ultimately in the end. So you don't have to encounter these things when you get older, because when you get older, the body changes. It changes in a lot of ways. And I didn't listen to my older sisters, and now I'm encountering and seeing that. So that's my activism, not only to keep them safe sexually, because I go to so many classes and trainings with Gilead, and I'm so hurt by seeing these charts with HIV and AIDS within our community, especially the Black trans community. We're shooting off the charts. So it kind of makes me want to be the Stacey Abrams of PrEP to get those numbers down, because I want to see our community of Black and brown individuals like the other communities where the bar is this big for them, if not smaller. And, so that's my activism, to keep my trans community and my Black community healthy, sexually conscious, safe, and not to make those same mistakes that I made in my transition. Just taking your time and doing it the right way so you're ultimately happy with yourself in the end and you don't have to encounter any like health things once you get older.
Well, you're definitely on your way to being the Stacey Abrams of PrEP, honey, because you be on it.
Thank you.
I can talk about work. All right, I'm gonna talk about work. So the Bryson Institute is, remember I was saying earlier, I'm the director, and we are like the education, advocacy, and outreach portion, the Attic Youth Center. And so I do a lot of putting together different like training modules for professional development. And one thing that we definitely need to work on in Philadelphia is truly understanding language. And it was very easy in the beginning to be able to do that because people were like, oh, just give us a glossary and a worksheet and we'll be fine. But that's not really the case when I actually do these professional development trainings. What I want to do is be able to have open dialogue with them. So my activism is all about having the hard conversations with people and helping them understand like their false sense of power and privilege in the way that the world works, and then helping them understand like here you may be absolutely powerless, but that's because you're trying to take away the humanity and how someone identifies, and then help them really understand how they too can be on board with making the world like worth it, or at least our city for now. So I'm putting together the facilitators handbook, which is something I've been working on for a really long time, and working with the school district so that GSAs can be able to really have some community building and youth leadership. There's too many creative Black voices in our city that are not being tapped into, that are not being moved to the front. So I want to make sure that all of the activism that I do, whether it comes to like anti-racism, to fighting transphobia, homophobia, biphobia, raising up the youth voices, I want all of that stuff to come back to Black people, to Black children, to the Black youth thought. They need to be able to have to have the tools to be able to pull us into the future that we deserve. And part of that is helping, the people older than them understand the language and the hardships that the youth are facing often in their hands. And I feel like in trainings we don't have a lot of there's not a lot of actually holding the people who are participating in these trainings accountable. Like it's about pointing out to them how they are often capable and complicit to the very dangers that I'm presenting to them about what, Black and brown LGBTQ youth face. And they are often like, well, what can I do? And it's like, well, it's really just about what you can stop doing. They don't always connect the dots. And I think it's on purpose. So a lot of my activism now at this point, because I've done like the marches and creating programs and everything to get people tested and getting them linked to care. But at this part, it's really about connecting those links and making sure that people understand that this isn't just about so that you can do enough to keep your job. This is about us finally getting down to the grit of it and applying this to common practice in everyday lives. We can't talk about the downfall of a community and then be complicit in its tearing down. We have to know what works. It's not about what's old school, what's new school. It's about evolution and understanding the language that comes with that and understanding how our communities identify, not just so that you can know the name, but you can finally start accepting and respecting the humanity in these identities.
So you're in Philadelphia.
Yep.
So one of my very good friends was an advocate in Philadelphia. Did you know Jackie Adams?
Jackie Adams was my aunt and mentor. She is the one who told me when I was 27, many are called and few are chosen. And that was a day I was so tired and stressed out, y'all. Like, you're about to bring tears to my eyes because Jackie Adams is somebody who
Amazing.
she was just like, she was just amazing. And I was like, I'm so tired, Auntie. I just want to go home. I want to give up. And she picked my face up because I was like crying and everything, child, found all running down the face. And she said, many are called and few are chosen. She said, you got work to do. Keep going. And I haven't stopped since.
That's what's up.
I haven't stopped since. So yes, bringing Jackie into the room.
So I want to remind folks to please use the link there that you see and go to RedCap. It's for our Sisters Not Sisters 2021. It's an evaluation of the actual live feed. So please share. Please, go in and fill out that survey so that we can find out what you liked about this session, what you didn't like, so that we can tweak it for future sessions. So make sure you copy that link and go and do that survey. We really, really appreciate you doing that survey. So I'm gonna leave the link up for a minute, so in case people need to, type it into their little web browser or whatever. So thank you, Stagger, for joining in. Landis says, "Hey, Philly." Landis Osborne. They said the city that gave us Patti LaBelle.
No,
Yeah.
we love her. We love her. We love her.
So, Shavonda, Monique, activism.
Yes. I talk a little bit about my work, my activism. The first thing is I always make sure that whenever possible, I amplify the voices of. I always say Black trans women. I'm Black women. My whole heart on my chest at all times. So make sure that I'm amplifying whatever space that I'm in, if I'm able to amplify the voices and the projects that Black trans women are working on following Black trans women. So following their lead, right? In all things. I also have a knack for fundraising. So whenever I can put those skills and those talents towards Black trans women's projects, I definitely do that. Especially locally. We have the Black Rose Initiative, and they are doing their first Black Trans Visibility March this month. So I have been there as much as possible. Also with my day job with Public Allies Milwaukee, we make sure that our programming is not just that we invite trans folks to be a part of our program, but we make sure that our space is inclusive, and we make sure that we are always listening and always adjusting and always being okay with being wrong and being okay with being corrected with grace and making those adjustments when we have to. And one of the biggest ways that I am an activist is in my mothering, my parenting. I have 3 cisgender young men that I'm raising. I have 18-year-old twins and a 15-year-old son. And so it is my responsibility to make sure that I am sending folks out into the world that I have loved on, that I have taught about accountability. My children have gone to social justice camp because you're not going to go out here and embarrass me, to make sure that they know that they have a responsibility to protect Black women and other Black mages, and that is number one. I make sure that my boys are always learning, and we're always questioning, we're always having conversations, because I do not want to send more men out into the world to make the world a place that's not safe for any of my sisters. And so that is my number one um, method of advocacy is raising my boys, to not be harmful, to be a help, to be, some men that I can be proud to claim. And if anybody see my sons out here acting in ways in which are not in line with what I said, let me know, because I will snatch mine. Publicly, private, don't matter. They will get snatched. And so that is my number one. That is my number one. Because I don't want my sons to ever be a danger to any of my sisters.
Yeah, that honestly, that's what I was gonna say. Like my number one is, first of all, I bake. I've been using baking as I've been on a huge hiatus because I just needed to get my mental together. But previously, me and my mom, like we started baking, and I kind of slid in, like pushing my beliefs and just like pushing like how to help like my sisters through like the baking. So I'm like, look, y'all buy some pies, but also donate to House of Tulip, or buy some pies, but also buy cookie for hymns, which me and Jason collaborated on. But I've kind of shifted from that to just amplifying like nonprofits, like for the girls and the homeless Black trans women's fund and just House of Tulip, and kind of taking the attention away from the bakery, and just honestly taking that time to bake with like my good friend Chloe, who I work with. She's like my assistant baker, and she's out here, a Black trans woman, and just like listening, just really listening to her, getting educated, because I don't know everything, and just honestly using like my cis privilege of correcting like my boys whenever they say something that is out the off just off the line, or if I hear a transphobic comment, whether it be online, whether this be in person, like addressing that and not letting that slide. And finally, just offering financial support, because that's important. Like Black trans women are significantly underpaid. So just using like just helping in the way that I can. I guess that would be my activism. But I think the biggest thing is just like checking transphobic comments and checking like things that you see from people that you love and not letting that shit slide. That's the biggest thing for me. That's the one thing that I think we all should, as cis women, we should be doing. We just need to be doing it. So yeah.
Awesome. So, great segue. Transphobia was a word that continuously popped up throughout that little dialogue there. So, why do we think transphobia exists in our community, and what can we do to change it? So, why do we think transphobia exists in our community, and what can we do to change it?
I think it exists in our community, mostly in the Black community, because of how we are raised in the Black household, whether it be Christian or not. We're taught it's wrong, it's nasty, you're gonna go to hell. Just so much bad and wrong about it, but they're not also teaching that the same things they do are sin, and no sin is greater than the next. So with that being said, why is it such a bad thing? And then it makes it to where men who can ultimately be or like or be with who they ultimately want to be with, because they have been taught as a Black man growing up in the house that you're not to be gay, or you shouldn't, like, it's just all wrong on so many levels. And then these men go and marry gender women and build these lives and have these kids, and then on the down low, they're with my trans sisters or my gay brothers on the DL doing everything behind closed doors, and when we should be being taught in the home like other races, um, love who you love, be you, do you. It shouldn't be any labels or stipulations put on anything or any love or anyone you're attracted to. It shouldn't matter, and I think that's why we deal with what we deal with within the Black community as Black trans women, with Black men or the men we're attracted to, or even within our own gay community. It's just backwards, and it's baffling to me. But I think that's why we have a lot of the issues we have, because how people are raised. It starts in the home, and I think that's what the problem is, and that's for me personally.
Organized religion sure is a hell of a drug, isn't it? So because if we can point a finger at anything, we can point it at that. Like, this ain't just, it's in the home, trust, but somebody stuck it in there. And it's often, and this is me speaking as the heathen of the panel, I I don't necessarily believe in hell, so they have no power here. So you can't condemn me to something that I don't necessarily like believe in. And oftentimes when it comes to Christian dogma, there is almost this unspoken understanding that you can kill individuals like myself, in the name of their particular God. So there's a lot of complications on top of how, like, these home structures are raised to support this nuclear family structure, that everyone everywhere are raising their kids straight and all of that. It is all chucked up in the way that globalization has kind of affected how the world and how homes are made and are influenced, and from there it's passed down through the church and all of that. Transphobia exists particularly in my community because when you have oppressed people to the point where they are discriminated against both of their color, both of the color of their skin, and pushed and forced into poverty, every single thing that they have acquired on their own, you can cue in any of the cities where Black people have thrived and lived. You strip all of that from them, and the first thing they are looking to do is to find something else to take out that frustration of oppression on. So transphobia exists because somewhere patriarchy runs rampant, and it does, and it needs something to step on. And transphobia is a very special kind of discrimination because it's both the disavowing of someone's gender identity and treating them accordingly as patriarchy would provide. So me being a Black trans woman, I'm going to experience trans misogynoir because I'm going to have my womanhood taken from me, and then I'm going to be objectified the way patriarchy does women and women figures and femmes in the first place. So it's this really complicated conundrum of discrimination, and part of the reason why it exists is because somebody's got to step on someone. And with Black men, particularly Black cis heterosexual men, and some Black gay men, but yeah, that is that's the get you gotcha in certain communities. They already dump on Black women, and they're, here you are, why you want to be them? Like, I've heard that in my coming up. They losing, why you want to be them? Not understanding spiritual alignment, right? You're supposed to do like whatever is between your legs says. I didn't know it could talk, but it's no longer about you making your own choices. So it exists because it is a tool to maintain the power of patriarchy, even in an oppressed environment and community.
I don't even know what I would have to add because Madeline took the words, just snatched them out my head. Transphobia exists because folks need to be able to punch down, to be able to step on somebody, to be able to say, and it's all like it's all a part of the patriarchy. It's all a simple white supremacy, right? So everything rolls down from white supremacy, right? So it I used to would say it's because people are ignorant. People are ignorant. It's so much stuff out here. It's so much stuff people can learn. And when I have seen folks though learn, I've seen folks learn about the ways in which they're transphobic and be confronted with it, and they've learned when they came out on the other side. I've seen that also. But it also exists because we have been socialized to believe that cisgendered is normal. Like that's normal. That's the default. So even as I always try to learn and try to unlearn things that I have been taught that are transphobic, I've had to be checked. You know, there's been trans women that have lovingly or quickly or not so lovingly be like, girl, you being transphobic right now. And I've had to examine like the root of that. Or even things that we don't see are transphobic. So I go to the doctor's office and my son pointed it out to me. Like there was a particular, I forgot what the question was. He's like, oh, why would they ask this? And I'm like, I never questioned that before. Or a neighbor had fallen and said, oh, he fell. My neighbor was like, how do you know that neighbor is a he? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Thank you for snatching me up right quick. But it's because we have been taught, it has been normalized. It's in our games, in our songs, in our music, in our art, within our religion. Madeline, we may have to duke it out for the heathen of the group because I too am a proud heathen. So it's just everywhere. It's like the very air, and you don't see it because it's there all the time. And if you're not harmed by it, if you have privilege, you don't see it, and so you have to be intentional about unlearning all of these things that you've learned. And it's a wake up every day and try to unlearn these things. And you have to seek out resources and things, to try to attempt to unlearn.
And I think that like going on with just the patriarchy, I think like just the hyper masculinity in the black community, I feel like that plays a really integral part in homophobia and transphobia too, because you have the black man in general in our community is strictly forced to be masculine, and any feminine energy is just seen as weak. It's seen as homophobic. I mean, y'all see on social media, like men can't buy
Wash.
a pink.
They can't
Yeah,
wash.
I can't even breathe no more
They
because
can't
your
breathe
chest
no
moving
more.
up and down looking too feminine to me.
Right. Remember it was desserts?
like simple things as like showing emotion like a normal human being is seen as like homophobic or just that in general. We haven't even like addressed that in our community. So I know for damn sure like we are not even, we need to be ready, but as a community we're not even like ready to admit that the black man not only like is enforced by his like the whole identity of him constantly displaying like this sort of masculinity, like that in itself is toxic, but we haven't even addressed that conversation. And yeah, I just think hypermasculinity plays a huge part as well as organized religion too. It's like those two things just, oh Lord, I need a drink after this.
Wait, can I ask another question though? Can I ask a question? All right, so wait. So we do agree that there is this thing about like patriarchy and and black men having to adhere to that particular standard and not allowing themselves to be soft and to feel things and all of that. So I think the first part of us helping them like work through patriarchy is for them to finally admit, everyone come closer, I know we're live. Let them know that the calls are coming from inside the house. They can't point fingers to the outside saying, well, you talk about what happens when Black women are being put down, but what about what happens to men? Well, see, that is a product of patriarchy that already exists. And so you can't get mad that now that it's no longer working in your favor, that now it's like, well, now it's your problem. No, my dear, the calls are coming from inside the house. So you need to find out who's been calling you and trying it and making you believe that you are in power when all along you're still experiencing racism and the backbite of patriarchy. Feminism is not the problem. The calls are coming from inside the house.
Absolutely. That's my favorite when they complain about the expectation that men pay for dates. You don't like it, get rid of patriarchy. But it's
then if you don't like it, then get rid of your rules that you made.
Play by the rules. Play by the
That's
rules.
like getting mad at your kids for growing up and talking and getting on your nerves. That's like, but they did not knock on my door and say, you the mama. You the mama. Hello, mama. You the mama. You cannot be mad at patriarchy no longer working in your favor. Or now it's like, oh, you know, capitalism is now whooping my ass. It's feminists' fault. Them wanting men to pay for dinner. No, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. They need to admit that the calls are coming from inside the house first, and then we can get to healing. Thank you, Joseph. The calls are coming from inside the house. Like, and then we can get to the healing. But they never want to admit that that is where the calls are coming from. It's like, oh, well, you can't, you tell us that we shouldn't do it, but y'all do it. But you taught women to do that. You were sentinels for patriarchy from the beginning, and you poured that poison into every single home and every single community. And now women mirror that. Use it in their raising of their children, and now in the future, now that it's not working for you now because you have gotten older, because that's where the pocket of men, that's where this lament is coming from. They've gotten older, they can't soar those not so quite royal oats that they ever were in the first place, and now it's like, well, we need someone to take care of us now, and patriarchy has once again left you with the fucking bill at the table. How does that feel? How does that feel? So until they realize that the calls are coming from inside the house, we will not get to a point of healing. We will need to depend on feminism to help all of us who are trying to get further, and we need to be okay with leaving some of them behind, okay? Because I am, all right? And you know, I love dick just like anyone else who loves dick. But honey, my liberation comes first, all right? My liberation comes first. I had to get there. And if I got to do without, you know, some dong up in me, splitting me in half, then that's fine. As long as I get there. But they need to realize that the calls are coming from inside the house. It's not our fault. I'm sorry.
So we talked about social media and how transphobia is seen in social media, but let's just talk about that a little bit more, about the role of social media and how people use that in transphobic ways, and really not why, because we kind of talked about why, because the calls are coming from inside the house.
Yes.
But as cisgender women who are affirming of trans women, how do you feel about that, like on your social media platforms, and especially maybe seeing friends or close relatives being transphobic? How do you handle that? And then for my trans ladies, my women of trans experience, how do you deal with transphobia on social media?
Yeah. So I had a friend, it was a close friend, and I didn't know this friend was transphobic. All of a sudden, she just started posting stuff, and my phone's going off. Like, do you see your friend? This is your friend. Do you see your friend? And I'm mortified. Like, this is my people, and I have to gather her. If it was a casual friend, it would have been really easy to block and release. But this was somebody who helped me, who was there for me. My mom was going through cancer treatments and supported me, made me soup when I was sick. And so this is a person that I dealt with in the world, right? And so I also know that I have a responsibility to try to teach and try to confront and to try to help people see themselves and to see the truth and to see their transphobia. She did not listen when I told her, you're transphobic. I'm not transphobic. I would never harm anybody. I would never harm a trans woman. Yeah, but you're posting this stuff and you're justifying the harm of trans women because you feel like they should be telling somebody that they transitioned or that they are trans. It's somebody's business. It's not even for you to contribute, right? And so y'all can't hear me?
Oh yeah, just
Oh, y'all can. Okay, perfect. Um, so it wasn't. So for in that case, I couldn't just block and release. I had to like continue to do the work, continue to do the work, continue to do the work. Now with my family, I disrupt uh Easter dinner, Christmas dinner, because you are not going to go out into the world and say you're related to me and be an ignorant fool. Now, do all of my family members have it? No, they don't. Um, am I continuing to work and press on them? Yes. My mom has made me so proud. Like I remember my mom, um, growing up, my mom's mantra was just you treat people the way you want to be treated, right? And as I got older, I understood that that's actually not. You don't treat people the way you want to be treated. You treat people the way that they tell you that they need to be treated, right? And so my mom was Miss. Long as they don't do that in front of me or my kids, I'm fine. So I got my mom from that place. So one day my mom's like ranting and raving about like trans rights. And I'm like, who? Girl, look at you and grew up. And so I I handle it by attempting to educate people. I handle it by interrupting. I've interrupted entire church services. Like I'll interrupt. On social media in particularly, if they're not someone that I have to deal with in the world, I do a lot of block and release, but I always try to teach and offer resources for learning because I know I also have a responsibility as a cis person and I have cis privilege. So I'm not being harmed in any way by transphobia and I'm not in danger when I confront it. So I do know that I also have a responsibility. Sometimes people are too far gone. I just gotta let them go out there in the world. I gotta let them go back over there.
Yeah, for me, the way I handle it is just it. I so, Lord, I started with just blocking people. I'll be honest, like I would just block them and be like, all right, I don't have time for this. But then I realized that that's not doing any good for my sisters in my life. So now I take it a point to try to educate and try to get the same resources that my friends have sent me to learn just about their experience. But I've had like I've had a close friend, a very close friend recently, and our friendship ended just because they said something disrespectful to my friend that I work with and something very transphobic, and me and them got into it about it. And I think just like and this was like in person, this wasn't necessarily on social media. And once I got into it, with them, they never really post about it, but I can't even have that person, even if they're not actively posting about it, knowing the way they think, I can't even have them like in my space. So it's a matter of like checking people in my life and like figuring out where they stand. And if you not fully in support, then like I can't fuck with you. You need to get out of my space because otherwise I don't feel like I'm an actual ally if I'm out here keying with somebody who's either not saying something or who's saying something transphobic. Like I can't even I'm not an ally. I'm not an ally if I stand for that. So
Right.
just like being on social media, um and just kind of monitoring monitoring what people saying and saying like I got shout out to Zuckerberg, but I got I got banned for
me too.
30 days.
Same.
Listen,
Currently in Facebook jail 30
if
days.
you don't, are you a real ally if you really don't get banned for 30 days? But
That's all.
I
That's all we
got
saying.
like I
That's all
got
we
banned
saying.
like for 30 days just you know checking somebody that was saying something super hateful and ignorant and just like knowing like in a few years or like last year I wouldn't have I just would have like like reacted to a comment or I would have just like scrolled past it like this person's ignorant, let me block them, but not actively saying something and not actively like speaking out on it. I think that like I couldn't have considered myself, I don't think I was an ally back then because I was either silent on it or I was just kind of just like letting it go, not even realizing the privilege that I had. So yeah, I think, and just honestly following, I think it's important to follow like the hashtags that are trending. So at least for me, like following like Black Trans Lives Matter or Black Trans Women Matter, or just Black Trans Women or hashtag for the girls. Like just following those hashtags and amplifying like those voices too is really important. So yeah, especially as like a social media manager, I'm like, all right, I need to like figure out how to amplify these voices. So
I was and I can be honest about this. I was once transphobic because I had passable privilege. Um, and it made me transphobic because the individuals I had around me who made me know I had passable privilege when they would joke or laugh or talk about other trans people, whether they were fully in their transition or in their transition, and if it wasn't feminine or they weren't buying it, it was a kiki, kaka, I would indulge, and I had to realize you're transphobic, and that's not right, So now, because I've grown up a lot, in that moment, if I don't know you and you're on social media being transphobic, it's easy to delete, unfollow, whatever, or just block you. But if you're my friend and you make those comments in my presence, I have to acknowledge it in that moment. I don't want anyone around me doing that to someone because that's a form of disrespect to me. So I have to address it in that moment, whether you're my friend, a child or grandchild, whatever it is. If you look to me for advice, whatever the case, I have to rectify that in that moment. Like, no, we're not going to do that. Just because she's not where you think she should be, it's not a laughing matter. It's not a joke. No, that's not funny. It's not cute. But I was transphobic once because I had passable privilege. But now I don't allow that. It's acceptable in my presence. And those that look up to you and respect you, they will listen. And, it's each one teach one. So, yeah.
and I think like it's not. I think people just need to like cis people in general. We need to stop thinking that like being transphobic is this like with white people, for example. Like white people think, oh well, I'm not racist because I'm not a active member of the Ku Klux Klan. Like no, it's not. It's not what. Like there are different forms of racism. Like there's covert, there's overt. Like so I think it's so hard to really check my like I had to check a friend the other day like asking something just totally off the wall and I'm like that's transphobic like and they're like well I'm not out here doing this and this and I'm like well those three things don't make you transphobic like it's first of all it's an umbrella of things that like you don't get to as a cisgendered man you don't get to decide what's transphobic and what's not just like white people don't get to decide what's racist and what's not. So I think like cis people in general, like what Jason said, why do people think cis is a bad word? They also think like transphobia is a bad word. Like they just don't want to be seen as like someone who is transphobic when in actuality, like that's kind of transphobic. Like not transphobic, but it's seen as like someone who is transphobic when so yeah, I don't know, y'all. I'm disgusted with the cis people, including myself.
I tend to choose violence most times, because because I have watched the trans conversation evolve over time, and I've done a lot of educating, both paid and for free. And looking back, I highly regret that. And sometimes it's not just that they're beyond help, but sometimes you have to speak in the language that only the monster understands. And at first, there's a level. First, I'm going to read you because there's no way in hell you don't know what's going on. Like, unless you really just want to understand on a personal community level, I get that, but most times you can ask that. So first, I'm gonna read you. Second, I'm going to screenshot your foolishness, and me and all my friends on my page, we just want to bag you all day. Because if you wanted to be the donkey of the day and post this foolishness, then baby, I'm going to give it what it is that you asked for, and we are going to carry you until we're finished laughing or having to stitch our stomachs back together. But if in the event the transphobe that I'm interacting with is getting a little too fly for my liking, when transphobia lands, I will catch these hands, because sometimes it comes down to the point where you have to defend yourself. Me growing up in Philly, me growing up in North Philly, me growing up in North Phillies in the 80s and 90s, they had no problems with thinking they can just run up and attack, run up and say whatever. And so I've had to learn, and this is actually more of an unfortunate thing than anything, but I had to learn how to be violent. And that wasn't something that was in my nature when I was younger. But sometimes that's the only language that people understand, especially when you get into the part of the transphobia where they try to make it political. Oh, y'all got your rights, y'all got this, y'all got that. Like, my G, we are dying every day out here. Seem like every day I check my Google, I'm looking at a black cis woman or a black trans woman being murdered. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They talking about, oh, it ain't enough rights out here for black men. Some of the same cis men that many of us have dealt with have that same ideology, had that same mentality on the book, and really be thinking somebody got rights over them when y'all are killing us. Killing us. So as much as I be wanting to educate people, sometimes I still do. A lot of times it's shade from the gate, and I don't even care. Because what I'm not about to keep doing on behalf of everybody that I care about in my community, especially my black trans sisters, what I'm not about to do is sit here and explain and beg and plead our humanity to them. The minute you start talking this shit, having trans people on some display saying some thoughts, my translation is you must want to fight. Because there's no getting in between that. You know what your thoughts are. They know what their fucking thoughts are. And the reason why is because they want a bandwagon of people just to do a temperature check to see if we all still hating the right people. Oh, it's fringing upon our family. It's doing this, it's doing that. They already are set in their way and how they think. So a lot of times I choose violence. It makes me feel good. It keeps my skin youthful. I
Well,
think others should try it.
you be careful with that.
I will. I will.
And she's serious. She said, I choose violence.
I
I
do.
think
Like,
that is my long lost sister because I choose violence every day.
every day.
Every day.
If I didn't have the artillery, I promise y'all I wouldn't choose. I promise y'all I would find another way. But because I'm so well prepared, I laugh when people talk about they're going to come to my city and do something to me when I'm to check them about their transphobia. Please come. Please act like you are going to inch just a pinch of an inch on the other side of 76 looking for me. Please. Please. Because I have not lived these 41 years all this time running. I promise you.
Oh, no, I get that now. Not, yeah.
Oh, no. You know what I'm saying? But the other half of it is me trying to, with me choosing violence, I've had to kind of relearn entering things in love. And I think that's where I'm trying to learn the balance. Because I'm quick to cuss somebody out. It's my mother and me. But what I am learning to do is understand sometimes people can come off really, really ignorant, but just don't know any other way to ask for help. It's the only language they understand. Does it
And
take
I'm
some?
also, and then I guess it's about energy and what I'm putting out in the universe. And at the end of the day, what you say don't equate to nothing for real in my mind. So you can say what you want to say, but me exerting energy to try to attack you or something because you ignorant, I would just let you be ignorant. You know what I'm saying? But when you come to like in my personal space or like, then that's a different story. Yeah, we have to resort to violence because when we the statistics of Black trans women and how we are being murdered and how cisgender Black women are being murdered and sex trafficked, you should protect yourself. You know what I'm saying? But like my mom, when we used to be out in the street, sometimes she would really like go off on people when they would clock T or say something. But at the end of the day, I'm like, bump it, Ma. I mean, look at them. Look at who is catcalling me. What do they really have going on? You know what I'm
Fair
saying?
enough.
So why is it that you don't even waste your time? I have dinner with the governor and chill with the mayor. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to help these people who are on
Right.
who are catcalling me. So pay them no attention. They miserable in their own lives. So just when you said violence, I just want you to be safe, sister, because I don't want to see you in the Google or nothing like that where you'd tried to beat the churn. You know what I'm saying?
All right, I'm gonna calm down. I promise. For y'all, I'm a chill. I'm a chill. I promise. I promise.
Yes, yes.
I'm a chill for y'all. I promise.
So, I know we probably touched on it, but this was like one of the questions that we had. So, talking about experiences of discrimination that you have faced or witnessed as it relates to trans women and cis women, because our viewers may not understand what we deal with on a day-to-day basis as far as discrimination.
Oh,
A lot of people think that trans women do sex work because that's what they want to do and they're sexual deviants, and don't look at the systems that are in place that oppress us and keep us from being employed when we are articulate, well-versed, educated. So let's talk about discrimination and how you have faced or witnessed it, and as it relates to trans women and cis women.
I've experienced on so many levels, but most of all, it's when I've met a guy and he's either approached me in public, wherever, and he's into me, and I want to take you here. And guess what? I may go to dinner. I'm not turning down no free meals, so I'm going to dinner. I'm going to use that half privilege, okay, for the free meal and certain things, like lunch to my job or those little nice calls and text messages. And then when I think like, okay, he's kind of into me, bam, the discrimination starts because now it's, oh, do you do this? And how big is this? Or what does this look like? Or now we can't go anywhere anymore. We can't go to restaurants anymore. We can't go to the movies. I'm not treated the same anymore. So now it's discrimination. So constantly I've dealt with that. The misgendering, even when I've been in instances recently where I may be somewhere on someone's behalf and someone may say, oh, he. Well, no, her name is, and it's she. I'm going to correct you in that moment because you say she in front of her, but now you feel like you can be disrespectful because now that individual isn't around. Now you're discriminating. And you may either work for this person or know them. And why is it she when she's around, but now it's he when I'm around because you don't know my T. Now you're being discriminative. So on so many levels, whether it's for me or those around me that I know, but it's all about fixing it and addressing it in that moment, and that's most important. But definitely have dealt with discrimination. I just feel like that's definitely discrimination when you want to treat me one way, when you think something of me otherwise, but then when I explain that now, the dynamics have totally changed, and it's a no for me because I'm no one's secret. I'm not going to allow that. We're not going to be sneaking to my door in the wee hours of the night for you to get your rocks off, and we're not going to be turning our heads in public when you see me because you don't know how people know I know you. We could be relatives. You could, it could be so many different dynamics. So don't hold your head down. You know me. No, I'm gonna speak when I see you. Like, so
But
yeah, we're not gonna
but
do
you,
that.
but you know what I like to flip on people when they do that, or they say, I'm just that and the third, my family whatever don't know. I don't want nobody to know about us. I'll be like, well, baby, I mean, I want anybody to know that I food
Know
but you.
about
Come on now,
You
you
better.
got
exactly.
come on.
I think you
Okay.
better Google me, boo, because it may be that I
Yeah.
don't want nobody to know
Right. That's how
Exactly.
you know I want people to know I
Exactly.
know your ass.
that.
Better go on ahead.
Monique, Shavonda, any thoughts you want to add to that conversation?
Yeah. So with my day job, part of our work is we have young folks within the city that want to enter into leadership roles, right? And so they do an apprenticeship at a nonprofit. And we have been very, very intentional over the last few years to make sure that our program is one that is a safe space for our trans. We call it, young people are called public allies. So we make sure that our space is a space that's safe for our trans allies without a doubt. Every single year when we're looking for organizations to host these allies, our trans allies in particular, we have the hardest time getting them placed. And it's not because of lack of education. It's not because of lack of brilliance. It's not because of a lack of experience. It is because people are transphobic and they'll use all types of language to talk about why folks are not a good fit. I can't name these organizations because I still need to pull a check, but we have particular organizations that have used certain language, fit, don't know if they're really interested. So every year, the majority of our trans allies end up at organizations that their focus as a nonprofit is on LGBTQI, work, or organizations such as Planned Parenthood. We've had great success with placing folks with Planned Parenthood because of their work with trans folks and trans youth in particular. Or what I'll see is folks will tokenize trans folks a lot. So there's one young woman in Milwaukee who I adore. Brilliant, just every award that you could name. This young woman has won that award on this board, on that board. I just want to be her when I grow up. She's outstanding. But so I see all these people like, oh, I love you. I love you. You're great. I love you. Want to take pictures with her, want to be able to use her as their barometer of their inclusiveness. But then when I see she's looking to fundraise for a project or looking for volunteers to come and support, I don't see those same people showing up in those ways. So it's that making her a token so that you can inviting her. People are running for office and wanting to put her on their literature. So you're looking for a particular number of votes, but you really are not transforming. You really are not supporting her because if all these people were so in love with her, I wouldn't worry about her when she was out moving about the world. I wouldn't worry about her safety in the ways that I do. I wouldn't worry about the safety of other trans Black women in my city. If all these people are so much in love with, why do I still worry about the safety of Black trans women moving through the city? And so to go back to something Monique said about folks not understanding what transphobia is, and when they hear they're transphobic, they're like, I haven't done anything to harm anybody, but you have. This making someone a token, is tokenizing, is transphobic, because that's a lie that you are telling. You're telling somebody they're safe and they're actually not. Just using that coded language to say somebody's not a good fit for something, that's transphobic. And so seeing that type of discrimination is very frustrating. I think it's very easy to call out very overt ways in which people discriminate, but those smaller things, those tiny, tiny little cuts are so much harder to call out. Because it's like, even when you know they're true and you know they exist, it's really, really very hard. But I see it so much in my role with my day job.
Yeah, on my end, I witnessed it a lot with, again, my assistant and also my really good friend. Whenever we went to like a party, for example, like I took her to we went to a party together, and this was with a mutual friend of ours, and we were all like kikiing together, and then the moment she walked away, this man asked, he was like, "Oh, is she?" And I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "Oh, nothing, nothing." And I knew what the question was gonna be. He was like, and then like when she came back, he was like, "Oh, what were your pronouns?" Keep in mind, we've all been friends for like a good while. And it was just like little like those microaggressions and just treating her differently whenever she's around. as opposed to whenever she walks away. And like having those like just those like sly comments whenever she's not around. And I think just like being around her and realizing how people, she would tell me about her experiences, but really being in the room and seeing exactly how people treat her as opposed to me, it's just, again, that's why I said like I'm still learning and I'm unlearning things. Like I'm just like, oh, like girl, we sisters. Like it's all good. Everything's great. And I'm just like, no, no, everything's not like I have to constantly. I have to constantly check my privilege. I have to constantly remind people that you got her fucked up, that you got me fucked up. Do you think I'm gonna allow you to have her fucked up? So it's just I see discrimination on, so I see it on whenever we had a news article come out, for example, and um I right before that, this was like our first ever news article about the bakery, and it came out that we really wanted to shine a spotlight on House of Tulip and just Black trans women in general. And the moment that even came out, the moment that we were baking, and we were kind of baking for like a cause, it was until the cause came out that we really started getting a lot of like white trolls, a lot of cis male trolls coming in. And then once they found out my intern's contact information, they were no longer really sending it to me, but it was directly to her, despite the fact that I own the bakery. So it's just like trying to keep like her safe, and just kind of realizing that it sucks that I have to, like, she's asked to not really be like as much in the spotlight until like this all calms down, and like completely understanding that, but also trying to navigate how to make her feel safe in a space that she's not, that she doesn't feel welcomed in, as a cis woman. And yeah, just like realizing the different, there's just so many things. Yo, I could talk about this all day, but it's just so sad. It's just so sad.
Well, I'm gonna lighten the conversation just a tinge. You keep talking about this bakery. How can we get some cookies, some cakes, something to taste? Are you sending Black trans women a ship?
Yes, yes, give me your.
Yes.
Just started like reshipping like today, because again, I went on like complete hiatus. My mom, she's located in Thibodeau, Louisiana, and I'm in Los Angeles. So we were trying to figure out how to like get potatoes from Louisiana, because I refuse to use California sweet potatoes. No, they do not taste the same. It's just not the same. But we bake sweet potato pies and we bake cookies. But yes, send me y'all address. I will send y'all something sweet. You too, Shabab.
Yes, I had to ask about that. You keep talking about that bakery, baby. I was like,
Thank you, Zakia, because I didn't know how to ask. Like,
I heard you,
And
Madeline. I heard you. It
and
was the
that's
it was a
and
it was a
that
call
little
from
cookie was
inside the
one
house.
ad you had flashed across.
I was like, a bakery. I love me a little pastry or something. Like a little,
Yes, yes, yes.
look at you.
So we are at 6 minutes after 8. I want to just remind our viewers to please make sure you go and tap into Red Cap link, Sisters Not Sisters 2021. Please copy that link. Go and fill out that survey so that we can know how you enjoyed today's conversation, what Mind, Body, and Soul can do better in the future, and just how we can just make our programming better. One of our viewers said that they're sending their address as well. How you do, Bree? Natalia is doing some amazing
She
things
likes her
What are y'all
snacks
doing
too.
to me?
in Florida with Unspoken Treasure. She's another one of our trans sisters in the movement. So shout out to Natalia. And thank you for watching and joining us. We're going to be taking some questions from the viewers, y'all. So if any of our viewers have questions, things you want to ask the panelists, please feel free to do so. Until I see those questions pop up, though, there's been a lot of conversation about trans athletes in the media and competing with cis athletes. So how do you feel about maybe like trans women who are athletes who are competing against cisgender women, or trans men who are actually competing against cisgender men in the sports arena? Thoughts about that? And
I'm
I
not a
have a
sports
question.
fan, but doesn't matter. I'm sorry, Madeline. Go ahead. I'm gonna
No,
go
you.
back to what I go ahead.
I just got a question because they like real like hype and like upset about this. So like are like, members of the Cree, extraterrestrial nation or as guardians competing in high school varsity? Or is it just regular human beings that happen to be trans? So no extraterrestrials, no people with superhuman strength, no metahumans, right? It's just regular human beings who happen to be trans who want to compete in school sports, right?
right.
You would have
Mm-hmm.
thought like Thor Odin's son wanted to play, girls basketball. Like you would have thought, but they really getting bent out of shape. Like, you know what I'm saying? You would have thought that Hulk Hogan said that he identifies as a 6-year-old girl and wants to compete in girls, varsity volleyball. These are regular human beings, and people are really getting bent out of shape. Like, oh, it's an unfair advantage. I mean, just pouring in the misogyny for those poor young girls that they are so desperate to protect, but the whole time calling them weak and inadequate in comparison to these dangerous demon trans people trying to take your womanhood by interfering into your sports community.
Right. And I think I've
But
seen a lot
wait,
of I think I've seen a lot of teams and community, and specifically, I'm gonna shout out this organization that's here, Stonewall Richmond. They're a gay sports league, and the teams are diverse. It's men, it's women, it's trans people, it's gender nonconforming people, and they get out there and they are just as competitive, and nobody is slighted for their identity, and it's about the fun of the sport and the game and competition, not gender and
Right, right.
wait,
It's
but
regular.
wasn't there a time when the little league baseball parents were lying about their children's ages? Like they were, so it was little league baseball, and these coaches and parents were using their kids that may have been like older to pose like they were younger. What's the problem? At least we're letting you know we're coming to whip y'all. Like we not lying about it. We're not trying to hide it. We want the same advantages because we identify with this legal sport. What's the problem? So it's okay to use your kids to lie about their age because they're more physically fit, fit, they're older, they're bigger, but you got 13-year-olds saying that they 8 or 9 to beat other kids and you're cheating, but we're physically saying, okay, we are, but we want to be in this particular realm because this is how I identify. It's no cheating. We're being honest.
Right.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
They don't get it either. They
I'm
fake.
so lost.
They
Yeah,
were
they're fake.
Yeah.
Because if you think about if it was about protecting women and girls, what's going on with Serena Williams? Because I
Oh,
don't see people defending her against she's she gets called a man. I don't see people defending her against all the way she cited for being a dark skinned, powerful woman. I don't see that. They fake.
Mhm.
They're just fake.
they give her the hardest time.
The hardest.
The hardest time.
Mhm.
because she's a
They give her
winner.
the hardest time.
Because they can't beat her. So they try to
Exactly.
cheat her.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly. So they don't really care about protecting girls and women's sports.
Mm-hmm.
They want what they're really just trying to do, and I can't
Mm-hmm.
stress this enough, is them trying to sneak their sick perversions onto children while demonizing some of the same people they're trying to attack for doing the same thing. Oh, somebody could come and harm their daughters. It's y'all. Look at
Okay,
the
and what about those
material.
same and what about those same young ladies that you're saying going to get harmed because they're cis, but they're taking steroids or certain things or enhancements? So
Talk
what?
about physical advantages. They better get it
Yeah,
together and stop
I don't.
this. They
It
better
shouldn't.
stop.
They fake.
I think we focus on the wrong things as a society. We focus on the wrong things. We put so much energy and focus on the wrong things to where we diverted and focus this energy on the correct things. This world would be such a better place.
I think it does like a disservice too to the mental and the physical like strain that you have on. I was talking to my friend about this, and like going through like watching her transition, like your body goes through a lot of things transitioning. So just like, and them trying to make it seem like, oh well, trans women are taking over these, like, no, first of all, if you really cared about the statistics, you would know that there's a very very small amount of trans women that are actually like going in and playing sports. And name one, please name one, if you're so worried about them dominating, name one that like dominates the sport, that dominates the said sport, that you like, you don't care about none of that. You don't care about that. They can't name statistics. They can never name exact like a famous trans act. Like they can't do it because they don't care about it. They don't care about it. Like Shavonda was saying, they don't care. They
They
don't
don't care.
care.
If they really cared about women and girl athletes, they would ban these cis male coaches who are out here
Who are out here hooking people?
harming our girls.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. They
That's
don't
what
care.
I can name some. I can name some coaches that were out here sexually assaulting these girls.
Mm.
Ban them.
There's a whole Netflix documentary. Like, let's really talk
Right.
about it. Let's really
Like,
talk about it.
if they trying to save the children,
They don't care about
They
save
don't
the
that.
care about
children.
these kids. They don't care
They
about
don't
these kids.
care. They don't
They
care.
care about. They team fuck these kids. They don't care about
They
these kids.
literally on some fuck
They don't
these
care
kids
nothing about these
energy. They
kids.
don't care about that.
Yes, fuck these kids.
That's what they really saying for
Yeah,
real. This is about them pushing their own like hateful agenda and movement
belief.
forward. And the same people that they claim they're caring for, they're going to leave them right out to dry while they're still being harmed, while they're still being used and abused. They're going to leave them right there to dry. They don't care about kids then. They don't care about kids now. If they were really worried about protecting these children, they had some gun laws in place so we could stop losing them while they're trying to sit in the damn classroom. If they
Okay.
really cared about children, they would be
Mm-hmm.
coming and probing these
Mm-hmm.
juvenile systems and making sure that these children are cared for. If they really cared about children, they spend less time about unborn children and care more about those that are in foster systems right now. But they don't.
Ooh, you
But they
better
don't.
read.
But
I
they
really
don't.
didn't care. I really didn't care about these kids when
They
there was the
don't.
school shooting in Colorado and those affluent little white kindergartners were killed. I said, oh, they don't care about
They don't
any of
care.
these. They don't even care about adult women athletes. So look at the I don't know a lot about sports, but I got TikTok. So these college basketball teams, they showed the disparities between what the men were offered for March Madness versus what the women were offered. They don't care.
They
They
don't.
do not. That look, mind your business like you've been minding it. You don't care.
And
Mhm.
plus, there's
Mm.
not any, like, there's really no sound evidence out there that really shows that there's an advantage to having extra testosterone. Like, show me
Study.
one body of evidence, yeah, one study that really shows that there's an advantage. And then not only that, but going back to like the womanhood aspect of it, like you're forcing people to prove their womanhood. Like you're forcing someone. What was that bill Idaho that brought out? What was it? I think it was a new bill that Idaho brought out, and it banned trans youth from sports. It's just like Idaho.
Yeah.
And then if that's how you feeling, then let's create a whole trans league then.
Right. Right. I mean, because listen, it don't sound too bad.
So Joseph Reeves said that the fact that they have these athletes playing in person in front of audience during a whole pandemic shows they don't care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joseph been coming with it.
Listen, with the heat. Pow, pow.
Yeah.
So y'all, we are like running out on our time. But if there are some parting words that each of you would like to leave with our viewers, and I'm gonna, do my shameless plug about that survey again. Make sure you all follow the link and go and fill out the survey to evaluate this session of My Body and Soul, Sisters Not Sisters 2021. So please make sure you go and give your feedback. We really appreciate everybody who has stayed tuned and engaged and asking questions and chiming in your comments. We really appreciate it. But some final thoughts from our panelists.
Come on, honey.
Don't volunteer my business. Love one another. Be true. Be loyal. The violence against Black trans women has to stop. So much to leave you all with, but just protect us. And if we're not around, be our true allies and stand up for us, stick up for us. The harming of Black trans women has to stop. And just love each other and stop dwelling on the unnecessary things and let's focus on what's important. And I always remember I'm not above you, I'm not beneath you, I'm right here with you. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Kayla. My dog is like being very disrespectful. She's like, come on.
Look, mine too, girl. It's time to go outside. That's what she keeps saying.
Yeah, she is with it. Like, girl, let's go. But I'm gonna wait. But what I am gonna say is, patriarchy is our enemy, whether we want to admit it sometimes or not. And the only way that we're able to fight against that, and this goes as trans women and cis women alike, we can't beat it separated. We have to work together. We have to bond and become that force of power that we all know that we are. So we can only do it together. Make good choices. And I want to thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to share time and space and love with y'all, seeing y'all beautiful faces, and just made me feel good today. So just thank y'all for everything.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. I just want to say for any trans or other marginalized gender black folks, to be clear, I'm here. Find me, reach me. Well, how did a Kim Possible song go? I am definitely here every day to continue to learn how to be a ally, a true ally. For cis Black women in particular, get your shit together. Get your shit together. Trans women are not our competition; they are our sisters. You doing all this for these men's real clown girl shit? It makes no sense. Get yourself together. Because I too choose violence. And I will correct you where you stand every single time. So please, please, please get yourself together. You are going to love yourself so much more when you divorce yourself from what the patriarchy has taught you that you need to do in order to uphold your womanhood.
Yes,
Did I freeze? Okay, I'm still. I thought I was still. Oh, yeah. I learned so much. I am still learning. The cis people out there, get your shit together. We need to get it together. Don't, like they say, silence is violence. Don't be out here thinking that you're not a part of the problem if you're not actively trying to dismantle the problem. That's the biggest thing. And then number two, I'm honored to even be a part of this group. Y'all are there are no words. Y'all are amazing. Shavonda, Kayla, Madeline, Kia, like y'all are amazing. And then number three, send me your address so that I can bring y'all some damn cookies.
We're gonna put it in the private chat
Yes.
so the viewers won't see our addresses. So first, I want to thank Jason Wadler, Mind, Body, and Soul, the Virginia Department of Health, for affording us the opportunity to even have this conversation. I hope that our viewers who have stayed on have been enlightened, have been educated, and I hope that we have shaped some change so that you understand really what it is that trans people face, and basically that trans and cisgender people are really facing the same things in a lot of different arenas when it comes to being Black women, period, and dealing with relationships. So, with that being said, I want to leave people and I want to challenge people to love one another, respect people for the differences that they bring to the world. Be non-judgmental. When you see your friends being transphobic or homophobic or discriminating against anybody on any level, call them on it. Because at the end of the day, the United States is supposed to be this land of the free, where we are able to live how we want to live in our authentic selves and be who we are. And we only have one life and we have to live it to our fullest. So YOLO, you only live your life once, and the world would be such a better place if we just all pull together. There are so many systems that are already in place, so many structures of oppression to keep us as Black people down totally. So then when we begin to segregate within our own race and tear other populations down within our race, it doesn't help us as a whole. And as we've seen with our last administration, how it has torn the country apart and shown true racism and given people the freedom to spew rhetoric and be nasty and be homophobic. I think it's time for us in the midst of this pandemic to come together as a community, support one another, love one another, so that we can continue to get past this pandemic, get back to some normalcy, and live in a world where there's some peace and some tranquility and acceptance. So, again, I thank all of you all so much. We're gonna hang on for a minute after we go off, so I can just give y'all all y'all amazing kudos for how awesome you were, and I'm sure Jason is gonna want to jump back on and talk to us. But again, thank you for tuning in, y'all. Thank you, VDH. Thank you, Mind, Body, and Soul. Thank you, Madeline, Monique, Kayla, and Shavonda. We are signing out. This has been Sisters Not Sisters.